Hello and welcome. My name is Michael Mack, and I'm very pleased to introduce Miranda and I, Benedicto, and Jennifer Higgie for this Mack Live event, which has been planned alongside the release of a very special art book sculpture created over the course of the past 2 years by Miranda and Jay. I'll leave it to Miranda and Jay to elaborate the details of how their extraordinary relationship developed into this project. But suffice to say that when Miranda first told me about the idea, it felt simultaneously unique within her practice, while also speaking to a history within her artistic trajectory, which so deftly unpicks, challenges, and invents new ways of thinking about collaboration. If you're familiar with Miranda's work, you'll understand how attuned she is to those subtle ways in which two people are able to work together, and these pieces she has made with J. Benedicto speak to important questions about the nature of exchange, friendship, power, and the ability to find modes of communication from different sides of the world. This has been a truly cross-continental, multi-dimensional project, no more so than this event. It's 1 a.m. here in London as we record across 4 different time zones, including Canberra in Australia, Los Angeles, and Manila in the Philippines. So without further ado, I'll give you over to the wonderful Miranda July in conversation with J. Benedicto, with Jennifer Higgie moderating.
It's really lovely to meet you both, and I'm excited to talk to you about, this really exciting project, services. So maybe we could just leap in and start with, so what is the background of the story? Miranda, you were called and the conversation went from there. So perhaps you could tell us how it all began.
Right. Well, I'll tell my point of view and then you can tell yours, Jay. So mine is, I'm sitting down to meet a friend at a cafe, and it was supposed to be an ordinary meeting, but COVID literally, like the pandemic hit really right over the course of that hour for us. Like we both got calls that our children's schools were closing, and like we hugged at the beginning of our meeting, and then at the end we didn't, so, and while I was waiting for the friend to arrive, I got a call on my phone like this, and from, I guess it said like unknown, I don't know what the unknown caller, whatever, and it seemed to me that it was like a telemarketer or something like that. But I didn't like hang up or say like, oh, no, thank you or whatever. And I really can't exactly tell you why. Like, I guess it was your voice, Jay, and your spirit, because it's not like I'm a particularly open, I'm not always looking for someone to connect with or something. But if you remember, I like answered all your questions. And what was do you want to describe what your job was? And what, from your point of view?
Yes. Well, I've only worked in the BPO industry, and then I helped myself to be an expert in doing sales.
Maybe say for people what BPO is, in case anyone doesn't know.
Oh, a business process outsourcing kind of business, wherein people from all across the world will ask for services from different country, like in the Philippines. And I think Coca-Cola was the first BPO company who asked for services from the Philippines, or who outsourced their business in the Philippines. And then I helped myself to become an expert as a salesperson. Then at that time I think I'm trying to become a team leader in that publishing company. And then it just so happened that I picked up Miranda's information, and I was really shocked when she told me that she's already connected with this big publishing company, which I really because the first publishing company I worked with was also connected to that Penguin and Random House, something like that. And then Miranda was a different person. I mean, she's not the typical customer wherein if she is going to receive sales calls, she will hang up the phone or she will be irritated. No, she was really sweet and then go on with the conversation. And then suddenly we were able to find that connection. I think it started in asking if we have Instagram account. In our company, I was trying to be safe at that time because we are not allowed to ask for any personal information about our customer apart from offering services. So yeah, and we were that that was the time that we started working together. I mean, knowing each other, what our likes and don't like, what I do for a living.
Yeah, I think after you asked me all your, questions for your job, I was like, okay, can I ask you some questions now?
Yeah.
And then I remember I asked you what you like to do, and we talked about karaoke and that you can sing and how old you were, just like different basic get to know you stuff, but just the fact that you like were game, that we were both kind of like laughing a little, like we knew we'd kind of gone off the script, not script, but like the method. Yeah.
But so, Miranda, this was totally an intuitive response that you had. You hadn't planned to do anything like this, but it was when you heard Jay's voice, you suddenly thought, I want to find out more about this person. Was that how it happened?
Yeah, I do think it had something to do with, like, picture you're just kind of stunned here. You're like, oh, my whole life, I don't know what's gonna happen next. And then the phone rings. You're just like, hello? Like, it's almost like I'll just, like, I don't, like that, this was the next step, was Jay. Like, in another time, I might not, to be honest, I might not have been quite so open. But then it also happened that, our worlds were getting smaller and smaller. So it became more and more meaningful that we actually had a new friend very far away, or not friend is taking it too far. At this point, we were still like, can I trust you? Jay very smartly was like, let's make a contract. And that impressed me, just that I was just kind of glad that you were taking care of yourself and the relationship, because it's also like, it's a lot of things that go into making a collaboration, and it's not like you need to be the same, but you do need to have a certain kind of fairness, and I think we were trying to find that with a lot of difference.
Yeah, absolutely.
If people can really relate or can see this book, I mean, they would understand a deeper story of my life.
Do you want to speak about that? Because you can.
I don't want to cry.
You on the spot.
Well, after I graduated high school, I ran away. I mean, I left my family. I live alone. I was able to experience things that I shouldn't be. Having this nasty intercourse with person that I really don't like, eating foods that is only for pigs or animals. I mean, that experience and that portrait, the reason why I mentioned it, it was my favorite, the one me dying and then the one begging, it's because it will really talk a lot about myself. And every time I see that, it makes me really cry. So yeah, I'm hoping that the people who will get a copy of this will really be inspired
I mean, they will understand that it's not only happening in the Philippines, it's happening all across the world.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think we, in coming from really different circumstances, shared a certain, I mean, I can't emphasize enough, really different circumstances, but we both did do sex work when we were younger. And there was a kind of frankness about that and about pain, really, that that we were able to have. And I think that's the thing that in any work, in any museum, in any context, like to be able to get that pain with no words, just with your body in your space, and not in a direct way exactly, not it's not like super graphic, is like there's a poetry to it. That is the most powerful thing I think that you did. And that was just I guess there's just the moment in your life, that where that was possible, but you also sent me like beautiful, fun, funny pictures of you and all your friends, like all dressed, like dolled up. And you would send me like karaoke videos of you like really glammed up singing karaoke. So like there was a lot of like joy and humor and vibrancy too. It wasn't just like, sad Carrie Ann's tale, it was I was also like really impressed that you had a community and friends and
Yeah.
And Jennifer, I think when we were doing this project, I was kind of hesitant, scared, or feel horrible if I'm going to do that. It's because it's really a deeper story of my life wherein I will be ashamed of. But at some point, with having a conversation with Miranda inspiring me, I think I realized that I have to do it because I have to face my fear. And it's not something that I can be ashamed of, but something that I can be proud of as to what I have.
Yeah.
And this is, I'm remembering now, like in some of our phone conversations, a sort of like moving point of connection is my child is trans, and you're a trans woman. And there was this, I mean, I had moments when you would talk about your childhood and how that felt growing up, trans. And here I have, this assigned male at birth, dress wearing trans child, and so it's like very complex what, we're two adult peers, but I also at times really felt so like, I wish I could take care of you. I wished I could go back in time and take care of that child who was, being so free in moments and then punished, I think. So it was a real, a lot of different ways both of us were kind of, just kind of emotionally deep in it.
Yeah. And so in a way that's what you both gained from this meeting. It was, there were the questions that you asked, to respond to, but the deeper level is it's a beautiful connection about understanding people from different parts of the world and different ways of being. And I think it's, in that sense, it's a very compassionate project. Yeah. So Miranda, how long did it take you to develop this idea of collaborating with Jay on this artwork and this Leporello?
Yeah, I mean, it kind of unfolded in real time. Like, I made it up. And I remember I initially said, maybe we give each other assignments, and you were like, I don't need to give them to you. And I was like, okay. So that, it's like, it was a collaboration in the sense that like I went forward where Jay was open, and there was, it always felt kind of like I put something out, like an opening, and I never knew what was going to come back. So for example, the very first assignment, and I should say just a little background, like there was a context, like this magazine, Süddeutsche Zeitung magazine, which is it's the German, I don't know, German New York Times kind of, and every November they have an artist curate one edition, and do a project. So I didn't know if this would be that, right? I mean, it's many pages, and it's, but I was up front, like I didn't want to, I brought that up right away, right, Jay? I didn't want to not include in like the knowledge that like if this worked out, I would be wanting it to be public in this way, and I mean, Jay's like pretty savvy, like it's not like that was like you couldn't get your head around that or something. Like you had a lot of smart questions, and but the first assignment, I asked you to bow down to something you loved.
Love, which is sleeping and money.
Yeah, and Jay sent a picture, which I then later altered, bowing down to money.
Right.
Which was so, and she also wrote this, practically speaking, living alone, supporting myself alone, and for 13 years that I was on and off, not with my family, I just love money. From the cheapest penny to the highest bill, because without it, I cannot live anymore, especially right now where I don't have no one and can't easily trust anyone. Maybe it's true that money can make the world go round. I'm not proud of it, but I have to live with it, which I just thought was like kind of a perfect beginning. Like it's just really honest. Like, and also like, it just kind of cut through like, oh yeah, like if you don't have money, bowing down to all sorts of other things isn't really possible, like you just, anyways, I thought it was, and then every single time, whatever kind of boring prompt I gave Jay came back with something really like powerful, and took each assignment. Can we tell just a few more of them?
Yeah, that would be really great to walk through a few of them.
And jump in, Jay, and tell me, like, so you remember this one I asked, because we were all starting to learn about wearing masks and stuff. I said, can you make a mask with just whatever you have around? And I remember you sent me a picture, because I would kind of bug you. I'd be like, how's it going with the mask? And you showed me a picture of sort of like some trash on your desk, which is that you were thinking of using and that you were working on it. And then you sent this picture, which I thought was just so, just kind of like superhero, alien, gas mask. Do you want to say anything about it? Do you remember making it?
Yeah, I think it was inspired by superheroes, like Spider-Man, and then I think one of the movie as well. I was watching at that time, so it was just like a combination of a futuristic superhero, something like that.
Yeah. And Jay, was making art something that you'd done before? Is art something that you've been interested in for a long time, or was this something new for you to be creating sculptures in a sense?
Well, art is also something I love. There are just many drawing. I love looking at them, but I don't know how to draw.
Mm-hmm.
So there are part of in the art world where I like and I don't like, but it really gives me meaning.
Mm.
So that's why I'm also being inspired to do the assignments with Miranda.
Yeah. And a lot of the responses that you gave to Miranda's requests are very performative. You know, you seem very comfortable performing. Is that something that you've done before?
I actually dream to be an artist. I
Yeah.
mean, working with different comedians, drama actors and actresses, um, as if like I am that person begging for love, begging for something, and people will just tap down on me. So I
Mm.
would like to be that character.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah. Maybe we can talk through a few more of the exercises that that you two
Right.
created.
Yeah, I wanted to at least get into this. So I sometimes, to give just us like a common starting point visually, I would, do you remember when I sent these photographs by Arthur Tress? Do you know who that is, Jennifer? I can't tell how obscure this is. I think this person's pretty obscure. It's a book that I think my parents had when I was a child. It's Arthur Tress Dream Collector is the name of the book. And he's this guy who had children and sometimes adults act out their dreams. And they're just these black and white photographs. And they were really intense to me as a child. And I still look at them and still think they're interesting. And so I sent some of them to Jay to look at and think about. And then I said, could you act out a dream? And at this point, and this is what I mean by like, you know, that could be nothing, right? That assignment could be so boring. And I mean, basically you wrote back about sort of a recurring rape dream. Would you put it that way? And then you sent and then also a dream of being suicidal or dying, and so these are the images that had to do with that. So this is one which I think is quite incredible. This this wolf is something that was on Jay's Facebook. There was a period of time where we kind of lost touch. Jay couldn't find her phone, lost her phone. And I was kind of left like looking for her and looking at her Facebook page a lot. And on the Facebook page, there was a wolf and a unicorn. And this sentence, it said, sort of like, sometimes I'm dominant, sometimes I'm submissive. Something like that. Do you remember that? I don't know. And so when you sent this, I added the wolf, and I don't know, I think it's a really beautiful image, and I don't know, I thought there's something about this line. And then there was also a unicorn, and so you sent another image of you like really amazingly made this, like you lying dead with your mouth foaming, and you used shampoo, I think. And I added the unicorn, which kind of weirdly mapped onto your body in this amazing way. Like this is Jay's armpit, but also the neck of the unicorn. And those are like two of the pieces that I'm most proud of our collaboration. And I feel like there's something happened there where we kind of crossed over into like a little world.
This assignment is actually one of my favorite because it seems like I am that portrait or painting wherein I'm looking at that person who's looking at that painting and looking at their reaction. it's just give me so much power, so much pain, kind of like that feeling. So it really it made me something different.
And Miranda, what was it that shaped your questions to Jay? Had you had long conversations with her before you came up with your questions, or were they quite spontaneous?
I mean, we talked a bit on the phone a few times, but so there was a little bit of just coming out of our relationship. But, some of it was me at the, it's like, it's my work too, or it's my portrait too, in a way, based on where I was, so I guess I was, what do you, like in that time, it makes so much sense to me that like dreams, I was also writing my dreams down every morning. And I think we were all in a really internal place. So, just sort of, and also I think I was looking to go deeper, which isn't that easy with like a stranger far away. It's like you leave the door open, like if you want, and Jay would like, just, absolutely commit. And just like as a director and actor, like setting it all up, putting the camera there, like I imagine there were quite a few takes before you found like the one you liked, and I just admired that too, that you were like doing that work, putting the care into it was really like, I think I got like you kind of like sat up a little taller from it, but I did too. Each time one came back, I'd be like, trying to show people like, this is happening. This is really important. Yeah.
I mean, Jay, how did you feel about Miranda sort of reaching out and asking you to do these, if you were interested in participating in an art project? Was that surprising to you? How did you feel about her request?
I felt being honored because of the situation that I am experiencing at that time, and with my background experience, it was really bad. I mean, Miranda was just like an angel who was brought to me because it changes the way I am. Who am I in the society? Who am I to my family? And the people who knows my background. So in this project, it gives me a light and give me a different experience as that I can do better than what I'm currently doing. Something like that. And Miranda was really that bridge who helped me gone this far.
And how long did the project go for? How long were you in contact with each other and having this back and forward with images and questions?
Well, so the magazine, there was like an automatic cutoff point because the magazine was going to press. So that body of work ended, but we actually kept going. And to my mind, we're still going. Like it kind of depends on our life, but and I've been like trying to finish a novel, so a little bit out of contact. But I never thought that we were done, because for one thing, we have all the work, that we made after this, and you kept going. Like I kept giving you assignments, and your life kept changing, and so those assignments reflect, where you were living, what, and then and the magazine came out, and then and you guys haven't seen this. I think I'm the only one who has it.
Wow.
Then the idea, the newspaper suggested an artist edition. They quite liked the project, and they said if one existed, we would want it, And I hadn't ever done that, but I was already in conversation with Mack, with Michael Mack, and just a fan of their beautiful, beautiful books. And so it was very organic to talk to him about it. And this might be the like, it's quite something. It's it's big. So here's the box, Jay. I really tried to pick colors that you would think were pretty. This is like this opalescent pink.
Yeah, it's got a beautiful sheen.
There was supposed to also be a museum show with the magazine, but because of COVID, that couldn't happen. And I didn't like how this is cool, but it's disposable. You know, I mean, most of them were probably thrown out. And so the fact that this is so beautifully made, and each of these things is like inset. It comes with 4 prints. So you actually, and to me, this is like one big reason to buy it. Like you get loose these prints. I sound like I'm like just selling my wares now, you know. One really cool thing about the prints that we did is the things that I added are glued on. So this is like a collage element. You can kind of see it's a different texture, which I think is like takes it to the next level. You'll have these. I'm so curious what you'll do. And okay, just one more. This one, so this too is cut out and glued on. This this was also on your Facebook, and I was just like trying to, this a little bit reflected the fact that I lost contact with you. And then when we got back in contact, I asked you to do this pose and I put that on it. And it was, I mean, we also, you know, we got into fights, like there was a lot of stuff that happened that would happen in any new relationship, but like, it wasn't always like I think we gained trust over time.
Sure.
So Jay, how do you feel now when you see, you know, this incredible body of work, you know, in this very beautiful presentation? And does it inspire you to keep being an artist and to keep exploring your life in these different ways?
I am. In fact, I'm very proud. I mean, I think that's the only word that that can describe how I feel right now. I mean, it will not happen if it's not because of Miranda. And yeah, I feel different.
Yeah.
I feel a different person.
I will say, just to sort of finish the story part of it, I remember when I sent it, I think I sent it all to you as like a PDF, or maybe it was the magazine, I can't remember, but I was so nervous because first of all, I had never really shown Jay that I was doing stuff to some of the pictures, you know. I was just trying to like feel free and not worry too much about, but that it also felt like that could not feel good. I'm not sure. And just the whole thing, like because part of the work is also our text exchanges, but I also, those aren't completely real. Like I edited and, you know, I made it work for the story. And obviously Jay was going to know that, you know, and so it's like this huge leap where I suddenly represented us in a kind of not totally fictional, but like a whole thing. And I remember literally like just walking around scared and I don't know. And then we talked and I don't need you to say any more nice things, but just to say that I was so relieved. And I think it was, in a way, that was the moment where, like, that's actually why we kept going making things, was because it was suddenly like, oh, this is what we're doing. Like now we had like a mutual understanding.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And what determined the final format of the project, putting it in this beautiful sort of work that unfolds in a way rather than a book?
Right. So a leporello, which that my computer doesn't recognize as a word, so I assume not many people know it. It's an accordion fold. The idea was that anyone who had this, and there's only 25 that will ever exist, could fold it out and display it, and that it could be like an exhibition. So all the museums are closed, but you could make your own museum show, and that this work would kind of be presented in that way. Not really a book, although it can function like a book. And there was a lot of back and forth with Mack and Bookworks and I had never done something quite like this. So a lot of paper samples and making little dummies. I worked with a designer who I've worked with before, Chris Svensson, and moving the images around. Yeah, so it, after you were done, Jay, I did a lot of just work on making this like a beautiful object, which was fun. I mean, I loved it.
Yeah. And were there artists who particularly inspired you, Miranda, in terms of your approach to this project?
Yeah, I mean, I talked with my friend Harold Fletcher, who's I don't know if you know his work, but he teaches the art and social practice program, like kind of invented that as a teachable arts program at PSU. And we just talked a little, like I wanted to get his take initially on like, because we've also done projects together and these sort of unusual collaborations, and where there's like this idea that you shouldn't shy away from things that have like tricky power dynamics potentially, but that has to be part of the work, but how do you do that, and how do you discuss these things and be upfront? And so he was a great person just to talk to. And I guess it's funny, another person who did this was Sophie Cal, who did this magazine edition, and she's done a lot. She's someone an artist I've loved my whole life, who's each project is very different, and often working with people she just meets very organically. So yeah, those are two reference points.
Yeah. And chance encounters have been a sort of recurring theme through your work in various ways. I was thinking about like The Future Starts Here. And so, when you met an Uber driver and you struck up a conversation, and then, a friendship developed from that. And so I do love the way that you break down these boundaries that we tend to often have in life about who we speak to and who we don't speak to, and you open up the world. And I think that's a very beautiful gesture in a way.
Right. I know, it's funny. I feel like it gives the impression that I'm this very like the kind of person who likes to hug a lot, which I'm not. It's really so unusual and so special when it happens. And it's a little like falling in love or something. Like you don't see it coming. You're nervous. And then there's this like unexpected intimacy that kind of crosses the normal social boundaries. And I think that's what I love about it, is that kind of like we both know that this falls outside of what we usually do. So it's actually that it is very rare that even though, yes, I mean, over a long life now I can look back and be like, oh gosh, I was doing this when I was a teenager, it's accumulated to the point where it seems like a habit, but no more so than falling in love. I probably had as many people I've collaborated with as, romantic partners. It's still very, very rare. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think it's it's a beautiful gesture about, the sense of not being alone in the world, especially during this pandemic when everyone has been so alone, that you've been sort of reaching out to each other. But have you ever met in the flesh, or has that still been impossible?
Yeah, not even close.
No.
I do believe. I keep thinking like, well, we have to finish that, like the body of work, and then have a book, like a book that there's more than 25 copies of, and then a show. And then for the show, like, we'll fly you to where the show is, or maybe the show's where you are and we'll fly to you, and then we'll meet.
Yeah. That'll be quite a meeting when you've been just used to sort of, talking on Zoom or on the phone. That'll be interesting. Yeah. Yeah. Wonderful. So Jay, I'm excited to meet you, and it's really wonderful to see this work that you've been doing. And I look forward to seeing where it goes, goes from here. That it's great to hear it's an ongoing conversation. I love it that we're in 3 different parts of the globe and we're talking today. It's great. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Jennifer, for doing this.
Thank you very much for joining us for this Mac Live event. Service is available as a limited edition of 25 handmade copies, and you can find more detail on our website at mackbooks.co.uk. Finally, I'd like to thank our dazzling speakers, Miranda, Jay and Jennifer, for such a fascinating and revelatory conversation about this unique collaboration and the resulting object.